So, time to start asking the important question. Director Wray, General Flynn, General Milley, in view of the January 6th riots, if you could prove that Donald John, the number 45, Pat's second cousin, didn't bother while going abroad to ask any of the foreign prime ministers where the bubonic plague samples, Chinese had 28 with 9 subspecies, in view of our Transportation and Infrastructure Act and the COVID under the Hatch-Brown Act, is 50 USC 48357 important in view of Belvins v. the U.S. and Mesa v. Arizona? And is the collective union Stevenson v. the U.S.? In 2 Jane Doe, that wouldn't matter in view of biological chemical weapons development and nuclear security. Or CFR 33 and CFR 7.8 in view of flooding models or alternative virus applications and epidemiology. Now, General and members, Mr. Wolf, Mr. Garland. I guess Mr. Garland, Mr. Wolf, General Milley, and Mr. Flynn. I guess the military wouldn't hold the computer, or the computer that Miss Ginsburg tells you before passing, that would be the generals that would have the Breezer. Hey, Breyer, you remember that hold my grandkid thing with the Durbin interaction? But you can't ask Warner or Tillmans or Rubio, how's those condos, the date mark and that email to you? Shift and Noons, what about that email that was sent in pre-model? McGovern, that tornado, that like social understanding. But I guess the Joint Chiefs, if you can prove that, hey, Mitch, buddy, how's the aneurysm? Mitch, buddy, if you could prove that you haven't seen the indenturement of the warring nation, Graham hasn't seen the indenturement of the warring nation, Hoyer hasn't seen the indenturement of the warring nation, that would be in the line of secession, number 3, number 5, number 7. Mr. Milley, if you haven't seen it, number 9. And you can prove the date model. If Mike still hasn't seen it, number 2, you wouldn't have strict negligence, would you? Or the view to a violation of the Military Command Code and the UN Code under Article 83 and Article 93 of the UN Sanction Act in view of a war crime. But that wouldn't matter when you violate the Sky Treaty, and in view of the Sky Treaty, none of your foreign embassies can make phone calls. Hey, Pompeo, Mike Bud, the other one. What happens if you still haven't seen it? Oh my God, that would be 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9. And then if Hoyer hasn't seen it, we have number 5. We have the full cabinet, do we not? And then you add the Secretary of Defenses. That would be all the 10s. But hey, that's not good enough to ask YouTube. That's not good enough to ask the Joint Chiefs. That's not good enough to ask the general Americans and say, oh, in Bush v. Gore, that vote doesn't matter just a little bit, right? That's like saying we can't understand Puerto Rico and the Sonoma Islands as states and say Weiss and Stevenson and view Lopez v. the U.S. But that doesn't matter at all. Adopted Uncle Jimmy Carter, you're too disabled to understand statehood. Barack Hussein Obama, you're too disabled to understand statehood. William James Clinton, you're too disabled. Excuse me, George Robin Bush Jr., you're too disabled. Now, let's ask all of them. I want to tell my 2 through 10 that they can't see the indenturement of a warring nation. And then ask this, that July 15th is the OPEC summit, where the G7, hey, I'm just ISIS meeting with Russia. That, oh, no biggie. That India, China, and Russia don't participate in the G7. Man, that Delta virus. And let's say we get 100 million. I got 60 million people that got nothing else to do because I'm already infected. But if you could wonder that to the bubonic plague in the animal species, that's not a national security question at the time. Nah, but that's not like it matters to anybody. We want on our airplanes, our boats, our school systems, our hospitals, we want the bubonic plague. We want the animal species. And we don't think that that the President of the United States asking that to the other nations for our CDC or our national security is not an important topic. But the country can't understand it. And everybody then wonders, hey, great-granddad, it's not important to ask you, hey, Jimmy, I guess saying foster mom as your niece, I love you, can't be a real thing, bud. But I just want to remind the nation, too disabled.